Hey John, this is Jessie Hobson with CineDump.com. How are you doing today?
Hey Jesse, how are you?
I'm doing just fine, man. So I Googled your name, and the first thing that came up was a drummer. I'm assuming that's not you.
That is correct.
Okay,
I'm not. I'm not that famous.
well, I mean, that guy, he toured with KRS-One, D. Snyder, Riot, so I had a whole list of questions for that guy, but I'm really curious. So I know that you were involved with a couple other conventions. What made you decide to kind of go on your own, like and start Fandemic?
It was just time. The other company I worked for was Wizard World. I was the CEO, and just it was time. It was time to move on. I gotta tell you, the most fun job in the world is not being the CEO of a publicly traded company.
I can understand that.
I've just so you know, I've always been in business for myself. I was a clothing manufacturer for 35 years. Sold to every major chain in the country through Kmart, Walmart, Sears, Penny's, all of them. Let's see, in your neck of the woods, there would be Gadzooks, and a couple of other ones. And I retired for a little bit and went to go work for Wizard World. And I enjoy running a privately owned company better.
Yeah. What's attractive about the convention scene? Like what made you transition from the places you mentioned to kind of the lifestyle of the con circuit?
You bring a lot of happiness to a lot of people, and when you see people getting excited about meeting Sebastian Stan or Milo Ventimiglia or John Bernthal or Summer Glau or the Phelps twins, Jason David Frank and Sean Patrick Flannery or Ray Park and Sean Austin, and you see just how excited they really are to get an autograph or to get a photo or to walk around. To me, people come to our shows 2, 3, 4 hours early to wait in line. I believe that is the equivalent to NFL tailgating.
Yeah.
So people of like minds get to hang out together, and I think that's really cool.
Well, you mentioned tailgating. I mean, Texas is definitely the football state. You do shows in Texas, California, I believe Georgia. How do you go about selecting these locations? Like, what is it about Texas that what's attractive about Texas?
Well, it's really it's about Houston, and to me, what makes Houston so appealing. Houston on the next census report is going to be number 3 in population in the country. The reality of it is, there's really only one show there, and that's Comicpalooza, and they do a great job. We're certainly not as big as Comicpalooza, but the city with that many people can handle 2 shows easily.
Yeah.
So my thought process was to find the right city with the right population that's not oversaturated in shows. And then when that show that I hesitate in even mentioning, because I don't ever want to be like any way associated or anything. And you know the one that I'm talking about.
I do.
Went bust, and I don't want to talk badly about anyone, but they just screwed it up. There was an opening, and NRG Center has been unbelievably fantastic with me. They know my reputation. They know how many shows that I've done. I've probably done close to 150 shows. And we really run a really nice show. The philosophy of the company is take care of the fan and take care of the fan and take care of the fan. And that's what we try and do.
Well, what's interesting is about NRG Center is that I really like when things do take place there versus at George R. Brown, which is where Comicpalooza takes place, because at NRG there is a little bit more ample parking. They're more prepared for that type of event. Was there any reason as to why you went with NRG versus where Comic Palooza houses their events, or was it to set you apart from them, or what was your idea?
First of all, not looking to butt heads with anybody. I'm of the firm belief that people that run conventions can still be allies and can still be friends.
Yes.
So, as I've learned over the years, is that the city of Houston, which owns the George R. Brown Center, also owns Comic Palooza. So if I was them, why would I want to put another show in there?
Yeah.
So to me, it just made more sense just to go to NRG first and foremost, where that other company was, and go out there and do the show there.
Yeah, do it right this time.
And they were thrilled. So in 2017, we were going to do our first show, and the hurricane came, and just we couldn't do the show because the NRG Center became an evacuation center. So when Harvey came, the show had to be canceled. So we really put on our first show last year in 2018, and then we'll have a show this year, 2019, and then we already have dates booked for 2020.
Excellent. So how did things go last year? Like, how were you guys received as far as Houstonians?
But I like I said, I've done a lot of shows, and I found it pretty amazing. I found it pretty amazing. The Facebook comments, the Instagram comments were also positive.
Yeah.
So I think the Houstonians really gave us a good reception.
You touched on your guests a little bit earlier. I'm really impressed, like, with the wide variety of types of guests and a lot of high-profile guests. You mentioned Jason David Frank. Obviously, he's a Houston guy.
Yep.
Sean Flattery. He's kind of local. I have a buddy that actually trains Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with him. Here in Houston when he's in town. Are these, a lot of these guys seem to be some of the more outgoing guests? Like, are these what you would call like friends of yours, or like how did this whole motley crew develop?
Well, there are quite a few friends in that group. I consider, all the people that I have on that list. There's only a couple that I have not met, and I would consider for the most part, everybody on that list is buddies of mine.
Gotcha. I reached out on social media to like a couple people, like what would you guys want out of a con and things like that, and to kind of get a little bit more prepared to speak with you. And most people were very pleased. Not only myself, but most people that were very pleased with your choices as far as professional wrestlers go. I used to watch professional wrestling when I was younger. And how does that, work into your relationship as far as cons and things like that? Is that new for you, or like what's working with WWE like?
WWE is fantastic. I've had wrestlers at every single show that I've ever done. Started from the beginning. There's a certain fan base that just loves that genre.
Yeah.
So I'm one of them. I'm one of them too, by the way. I've been watching wrestling for, I go back a lot longer than you do, I'm sure. But yeah, so, it's, the wrestlers add a certain amount of appeal to the show.
Yeah. The one request that I kept seeing from my social media post was Kenny Omega. So just kind of note that down. He's the number one request.
Really?
Yeah.
Could you do me a favor? When we are done with this phone call, could you text that to me? Yeah,
not a problem. He's signed by by AWE, who is they're like a competing company it's made by wrestlers, and they're about to go live on TNT. Here in a couple weeks. So they're going to be directly competing with WWE, but I will text that to you. He's he got huge in the independent circuit and the Japanese circuit, and he's just now starting to kind of make it big time, but he's He's like the big boy as far as the indies are concerned.
Okay.
Lastly, I kind of just want to finish up with, I noticed that there's kind of this odd trend of a lot of cons not really including as many artists and creators. It's kind of a sign of the times ultimately, but I was curious as from someone's perspective that's kind of been around for a while as far as the industry goes. How do you feel about this, and like where do you see it going, and like ultimately what are you gonna do to remedy it?
I don't know. Well, first of all, there's so many cons to go to. It's a joke.
Yeah.
So I believe that if you don't bring in the artists and you don't bring in the creators, you really don't have a con. I mean, they're the ones who really got it all started too.
Yeah.
So how do you not bring them in? And I love the guys that we have coming in. We have a bunch of celebrity artists from Arthur and Tom Cook, and there's just a bunch of different people, and local people like Rod's coming. So I enjoy having them all there.
Yeah, me too. I guess in closing, is there anything else you'd like to mention? Maybe something I overlooked. I want this is your time to pitch it to those that haven't made up their minds just yet.
Listen, come to the show, meet the celebrities, come meet a bunch of your friends, and really just come hang out and have a good time.
Excellent. Well, you guys heard it here first. This is Jesse with CineDump.com. We let the doers know how they're doing. And we are with John Macaluso, from the Fandemic Tour, the CEO, and he wants you guys to come and make some new friends and have a good time at the con.
You betcha. We'll see you then.